Hello guys, good evening and welcome back to another exciting Doctor Who review. Now last time we did the review on the Ambassadors of Death, but now we're moving on to a tremendous story, the finale story of Season 7. Yes, you know it all. Today's review is the ultimate story, that is Inferno, which I quite like to call Project Inferno. I'm just so excited to be doing another Doctor Who review because I have been doing this other channel, the Game Addicts, with my other friends, but if you are seriously interested in that review, then seriously check that out as well. I'll put a link in the description down below so you can notify and subscribe to the Game Addicts if you want to, that is. If you want to support me throughout, my friends, then please do subscribe as well. But with this review, I would say that this is a completely tremendous review that I absolutely adore to bits, because it's seriously one of the best stories that many people can hardly lay a fault on this story, because it's completely well directed, well written, some brilliant character development, the plot development and the action scenes. I think it's absolutely tremendously brilliant, and I really like the concept introduced of the parallel universe. I just love that idea, and I love to see the similarities and the comparisons between each universe. It's so interesting, so fascinating to watch, and many people rate this story 10 out of 10, and I know I'm doing this quite early in the review, but I have to certainly say from my heart I would have to say that I have to give this review a 10 out of 10 from me as well, because it's certainly one of the best, and many people certainly say that this is a classic story, and it is the classic story from John Pertwee's era. It's just truly tremendous, and look at that cover, completely like a doomsday effect. My gosh, this story is really fantastic. And so guys, let's not waste any time, let's get straight into the review on Project Inferno, written by Don Houghton. Now Don Houghton, I have to say, is a really underrated writer, and this for his first story, oh my word, Don Houghton, I love you. Because Don Houghton actually does some brilliant writing, and for this story he does ultimately some brilliant strong writing for the plot, but not only for that, the characters are seriously well developed. I absolutely have like full faith in his writing that he can guarantee an ultimate story, 7 parts like this, and he introduced the idea of introducing that the parallel universe could be a good idea on how to make the entire story really interesting. If they didn't include the parallel universe concept, this would literally be a good 4-parter. But I think with the parallel universe idea, it's such a really good idea, and I absolutely love it. And I think the parallel universe sees all the similarities and the differences between each universe, and it shows you how advanced the project in the parallel universe is, like 3 hours towards penetration 0, whereas with the other one they're far behind with their project. And so you can see the effect and the impact of what could happen to this project in the parallel universe, and that really has a certain effect and some confidence boost on the Doctor that makes him so determined to stop the project in the real world from reaching penetration 0, because as he has already experienced this entire project and the effects and the impact of what could happen to the entire project in the parallel universe, he can now stop the entire project in the other universe from completely having the same effects. I think the Doctor is absolutely fantastic in this. We might as well read the description since I'm mumbling on. The Doctor and unit are attached to the Inferno project, a top secret drilling operation which aims to penetrate the Earth's crust and release a major new source of energy. When a toxic liquid leaks from the pipes, the project is thrown into crisis, and when the Doctor finds himself thrown into a parallel universe, the true danger that faces Earth is revealed. Now from that description, I could guarantee that this story is certainly really well written. I think the strength in this story is certainly really high. I love the plot development. I think it's really good. Seeing all of what could happen, you know, before penetration 0, and what dangers could occur and what emergencies could happen. And so it's quite a real intimidating doomsday scenario of where when they reach penetration 0, what can they do? Can they find a solution to, you know, to stop this entire, you know, project from going up in flames or blowing up? And so eventually in episode 5 and episode 6 and 7, they honestly can't find a solution to this entire project. Once they reached penetration 0, they honestly have no forces of the Earth to completely stop this entire project. They can't do anything at all. Like, even Greg Sutton even made a comment, so it's doomsday, we just sit back and wait for it. That's basically it. At the story in episode 5 and 6, there was merely a series of episodes that really had a really negative effect. Since they already reached penetration 0, they already had the negative effects on the entire story of what has happened to this entire project. Gone up in flames, they can't do anything about it, they can't block any shafts whatsoever, and so this entire project is going to burst up in flames and is going to release some deadly forces of the Earth and completely destroy mankind. And so it has a real really devastating effect on the entire story. And I really like the entire parallel concept of where in a few episodes 3, 4, 5 and 6, you basically get to see differences of where there were a few scenes of where you saw the parallel universe of where everybody is completely different, and then suddenly it has a mirroring effect, and then it goes into the other universe and sees how, you know, empty and how, you know, quiet it is without the Doctor peeping in now and again. And so people are actually quite worried about, is the Doctor going to come back, and how, you know, Professor Starman is getting quite annoyed and he wants to accelerate the drilling because he really wants to achieve his ultimate glory of reaching penetration 0 in the next few minutes. He wants it to be as quick as possible. Like, his ultimate achievement is to increase the drilling rate so fast, but he doesn't know what dangers lurks ahead. He has no sense of purpose whatsoever. He feels like that his own decisions matter to himself. He's so self-centered. He feels like that his decisions are so accurate, and with a supercomputer giving him all the wrong answers, he honestly believes that this is his ultimate dream and he wants to achieve the best possible achievements for his own career. So that's what he only cares about. And when I mentioned about the computer giving him the wrong answers, I was actually saying that the computer was actually giving him the right answers of what could happen in the end. And so the computer actually saw as a threat towards Professor Starman, and Professor Starman really opposed the computer and said that the computer is inaccurate. But what the computer was actually saying, that this project must be stopped immediately. But Professor Starman, you know what he's like, he's going to completely increase the drilling rates like by 12%. And I don't advise that at all. And I think Professor Starman is absolutely so obedient and so stupid. He has no brain whatsoever. What dangers can occur when they reach penetration 0? He has no sense whatsoever. And even so, when he gets infected with the green slime in the beginning, of where he actually touches the glass full of this green slime, and this green slime actually has some devastating effects, especially towards Slogan, the perverse person who actually gets infected with this green slime, and actually his entire body changes into almost like some kind of vicious animal that can lurk out and, you know, destroy and kill people within the entire project. So I can honestly feel that this green slime is like a threat to the entire story, because if you get infected with this toxic slime, you honestly get infected so badly and it makes you go insane. Like, your entire body cells change so immensely. You honestly change into some kind of animal and you go absolutely mental. Now, what makes Professor Starman so mental and so mad in the entire story, that he actually becomes a Primoid. It's almost like the Primoids are actually crossed between a pack of dogs and a pack of wolves, all created like in man form, almost like a werewolf kind of creature. So that's what my honest reaction is to the Primoids, you know, or what their identity is really. And so I would have to say that the Primoids are actually a good creature, and actually they can lash out some seriously deadly damage towards any people that come near them. And so they're honestly really aware of, you know, what's happening. They light the heat, they hardly light the fire extinguishers, and so the fire extinguisher really felt as a useful tool to help the Doctor to escape from these Primoids in the parallel universe. And so The Doctor, honestly, in the story is absolutely phenomenal. I even liked him in the beginning episode where he was actually being quite funny towards the Brigadier, and where he was actually laughing at the Brigadier's photos from him being in military school. I think it was just so hilarious. And even so, what I find even funnier is that I like the Doctor's insulting comments that he makes towards Professor Starman, like, "You are a nitwit." I just love that. I think the Doctor is really good, and what I absolutely like, and I think this was a good idea to add to John Pertwee's Doctor, to give him an aspect of him which makes him more obedient, more invincible. Like they introduced something called Benjamin Karate, or martial arts, which actually gave the Doctor a good way of preventing other people from disturbing him or getting in his way. And so no matter if you disrupt or just upset the Doctor so much, he can actually land a Venusian karate chop on you just like that. I think that was a good idea to add to the Doctor, because I really made him so, unpredictable and yet unusual with his karate, aspect. I thought that was a real ingenious point to add to the Doctor's personalities, because the Doctor certainly has some determination within this story, but what I really like is that he really takes the kung fu action and he really makes this entire karate thing a real good thing for his own Doctor. And that's what I really like about how the Doctor is so good and getting out of every situation using this new aspect of the karate thing. That's what I really like, and I think that was really an ingenious point that the producers really added to John Pertwee's Doctor to make him a more different Doctor, a really kung fu Doctor, kung fu panda really. I really like that aspect. And also I think that the characters in this are really, really strong, and even so when they go into the parallel universe, they all have different traits, different similarities and so many differences. It's just absolutely fascinating to see the differences between the Brigadier in the other world, yet very friendly towards the Doctor and really has so many mysterious murders on his hands, which he absolutely feels really worried, and he actually feels quite worried when the Doctor actually leaves and disappears. And even so, then in the parallel universe, you get the brigade leader who's quite sinister, quite aggressive towards the Doctor. He sits in his chair, he has his eye patch on, and he really feels so invincible when he's talking towards the Doctor. Like he's so superior that no one can ever deny him. And with Liz Shaw as well, the section leader Liz Shaw is actually quite different from the original Liz Shaw. Like Liz Shaw in the other universe was actually a good scientist, really helped out with the Doctor in some good scientific experiments, but in the other world Liz Shaw was actually more of a section leader to help with the military side, and she was more of a forceful and aggressive leader towards the Doctor as well, and so she actually became quite authoritative in this story. And with Liz Shaw as a character, the same character but just having a different personality trait, I think Liz Shaw in this story is really, really strong. Her personality, where she becomes so authoritative and so strong in her personality when she's talking to the Doctor in like episode 3, it's absolutely fantastic to see that she has some authority in this story that I really admire now, because I think all the characters in this story have some certain of authority. Like Sergeant Benson, I love Sergeant Benson in the parallel universe. I thought he was absolutely so strong, so aggressive, and he really felt as a real negative threat. I absolutely love Sergeant Benson, and I think this is where we saw Sergeant Benson appearing very often now and again in all of John Pertwee's stories. I think I love Sergeant Benson and his honest, role as a soldier towards the Brigadier. I love Benson so much. I think he's so brilliant, and I think John Levine, the actor who plays Sergeant Benson, is absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love his character, and also the actor is just he's really kind. And if I had the chance to meet John Levine, I honestly would, because he really feels like a very generous and very polite person. He is so brilliant, and I really like the Brigadier in this. Although I like the brigade leader more, I really like how the Brigadier is really worried about how, since the Doctor's disappeared, and how he has so many murders on his hands, that he really wants to solve these occurrences straight away, and he has some kind of worried conspiracy that this entire project is not going according to plan. And he really gets quite worried with the Doctor, where he's been, where he's gone. And so that really made him so concerned of, like, since the Doctor's gone, so many murders on my hands, and now Professor Starman is increasing the drilling rate. He's worried, alright, he's very, very worried. Another set of characters that I absolutely love is that Petra Williams and also Greg Sutton. I think those two, they do have a little bit of love, like a love at first sight kind of thing, and I really like how their love relationship really starts out of being like they don't get along with each other quite as well in the first few episodes, but then like in the final 5 or 6 episode of where they really now start to work together and they really see eye to eye to each other. That's what I really like. And I think with Greg Sutton, I think he, in my honest perspective, he is one of my favourite characters in this entire story, because his character is so generous, and so yeah, he has some good authority that he really goes against the brigade leader. He has some kind of authority that he knows so much about drilling and how the effects and the impacts can have of where danger can occur, and he can prevent those dangers from occurring. And also, what I really like about Greg Sutton is that he has so many different skills of where all of the people at Central Control, they don't know about Greg Sutton's ultimately great skills about drilling and his knowledge. They completely ignore him. But what I really like about Greg Sutton in this story is that he's absolutely brilliant in this, and he becomes more the heroic figure in this, and that's what many people really don't notice in this story. I really like Greg Sutton, and he really feels like more of the hero, but he really feels so determined to do something no matter if there's nothing to do. Yeah, and also Petra Williams, although she is a good scientific advisor towards the Professor, I think the Professor goes a bit off into episode 7 where he completely ignores Petra Williams a bit, and then she really gets quite concerned of Professor Starman and his decision making, and so she kind of has some kind of questions towards Professor Starman of where he really doesn't like everybody here, and like Petra Williams is almost like, should you be at least listening to them of what, I mean, they're still making sense. And so I mean, Professor Starman, he's absolutely a nutcase in this story. He doesn't listen to anybody. He thinks his own decision making is absolutely spot on. Like, even the computer is even completely accurate. Like, he even said in one scene of where he actually got a microcircuit from the computer and he wanted to bash the hell out of it, but the Doctor caught him and he actually used some vengeance from karate and stopped him, and like it was like it was actually like stopped. It was actually almost like paralyzed really. And so, you know, it was a good way of like how the Doctor used that karate, you know, aspect introduced to his Doctor. And also I really liked of how the Professor really felt threatened against the Doctor, because the Doctor was absolutely getting on his nerves. He hated the Doctor so badly, and when he heard the news that the Doctor absolutely disappeared, he was like, excellent, he did what he was told to do, now we can get on with our work. And so he absolutely hates the Doctor once and for all, and even so, in the first episode, he absolutely hated him. And I just love the negative comments that the Doctor makes towards Professor Starman. Like, he's a nitwit, he's an absolute fool. Professor Starman doesn't have any intelligence in this story. He basically goes and decides what is best for him, what's best for this entire project on his own accord. He hardly listens to anybody. Everybody listens to him because he's the director of the entire project. But what character I really like, and should be the director of this entire story, is Sakif. I think he is such a real great character in the story, and even if you suspect Sakif is actually, if you actually know in Tom Baker's era, he's actually Jago in the Jago and Lightfoot series in the Big Finishes. I mean, I don't really listen to the Big Finishes, but I saw that Mr. Jago in the Towns of Wen-Chiang in Tom Baker's era is actually the same actor who played Sakif Gold in Inferno. That is something I didn't realise until today. That was so strange. I didn't even know that Sakif Gold was actually in Inferno, but also in the Towns of Wen-Chiang as Jago as well. So that was a new thing for me. And I absolutely love Sakif in this story. He really feels so polite, kind-hearted, but he doesn't have the entire massive authority to take over the entire project. He feels like that Professor Starman is his boss, and if he goes against Professor Starman, he would honestly get sacked or get fired or get shouted at really, really badly. And so he honestly follows orders from Professor Starman. But what I like about it is that he goes against what Professor Starman thinks about his entire project, and I absolutely love Sir Keith. I think he's a kind of a kind character, and although in the parallel universe Sir Keith actually gets mentioned, but instead Sir Keith was actually dead in the parallel universe. But in the other one, what actually you saw in episode 5 of where Sir Keith was actually, you know, in the car, and he was actually almost like in a car crash, but then in episode 7 he actually returned, and what actually happened to Sir Keith was actually he was involved in a car crash, and what actually the Doctor notices it after all in the end, where he says, "You're not dead," and so he actually thought to himself like, so the pattern can be changed, so not everything runs parallel. So not everything happens the same rate. So not all the things happen. So since Sir Keith was already dead in the parallel universe, but in the other universe he's not dead. So the pattern can be changed, and so that's what he automatically thought in episode 7 of where the pattern can be changed. He can reverse it, and he can stop this entire project from going up in flames. So that actually gave the Doctor a bit of leeway, some confidence boost to stop this entire project. And so that's what I actually thought, that the Doctor was absolutely really sensational in this story. I think all of the characters play a huge role in this entire story. And I really like how the action scenes are really well directed, and I really like how private and where the Doctor goes up on these high buildings, trying to hide away from all these soldiers from capturing him, and he also tries to get. And also the action scenes of where he's trying to find Private Wyatt, but also Private Wyatt actually gets infected with this deadly chemical. And then actually the Doctor notices, you know, at Private Wyatt of where he's become, you know, part of where Slogan has actually become this, you know, this aggressive creature. And Private Wyatt has actually mutated into this aggressive creature. And the Doctor actually gets quite threatened and quite scared of Private Wyatt. He's absolutely a lethal threat. And so I absolutely love this entire story. I certainly love the cliffhangers in this story, especially episode 4's cliffhanger of where they're almost reaching to penetration 0, and the countdown is counted from 1 minute all the way down to 0, and the Doctor tries to prevent everybody to stop this entire project and to prevent a massive catastrophe from happening. And it was going down into the final 10 seconds, 10, 9, and the Doctor was actually getting quite worried of whether could he actually escape, could he actually stop this entire project from, you know, from blowing up the entire world. And then Professor Starman was holding a gun at him, and then the counter was still continuing, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then titles straight away. That honestly created such an intense cliffhanger. I absolutely loved that cliffhanger so much. And then in episode 5, they actually reached penetration 0, and it was almost like a complete earthquake that shook the entire place. Like everybody was falling to the ground, explosions was happening all around the complex. Everybody was getting quite worried that this entire project has not gone according to plan. An earthquake has happened, they've completely struck and released all the forces of the Earth's core, and nothing can stop the Earth now. Now the Earth is completely in the hands of itself. It goes on its natural accord, and this entire Earth would be shattered to bits. Now since they've broken through the Earth's core, they are completely released chemicals and new sources of energy, but yet still they can't use that energy now, because now since they've released all the forces of the Earth, they can't stop the entire project from blowing up. They can't do anything. But the Doctor tries his absolute best to prevent a more deadly catastrophe from happening by trying to get back to his other world, to prevent the other world from suffering by the same effects as well. So he didn't really want this entire project to go to penetration 0. He wanted this project to be stopped immediately. And so that his honestly confidence boost was to go back to the other universe and stop everybody from going to penetration 0 and penetrating to the Earth's crust. He absolutely forbid it. Like, he honestly really had some determination to stop Professor Starman from drilling into the Earth's crust anymore, because he knew what was going to happen in the end, and he absolutely had some thought of where he really wanted this entire thing to be completely be shut down immediately. Like he went a bit insane. The Doctor really wanted this entire project to be completely forced to close down once and for all, because he's already seen the effects. Lava explosions, you name it. Doomsday. This is what this entire story shouts to the Doctor. Doomsday. If the Doctor doesn't stop this before time runs out, then it's disaster for the entire world. I can guarantee that. And this is what the Doctor is absolutely brilliant in this. This story is absolutely really spectacular, and what I like about it is that the brigade leader, Liz Shaw, and also Sergeant Benton, they honestly really interrogate the Doctor, almost like it's torture for him. In episode 4, we see that the Doctor is actually tied up, put light straight at his face, and the brigade leader is actually forcing him to tell the truth, and it's almost like complete torture for the Doctor. And I really like how the comparisons from the parallel universe relate to the other universe as well. So you get different scenes of where there are a few scenes in parallel universe, and it goes into a scene of where it goes into a complete mess and mirroring effect, and goes into the other universe of how the effects and how the project is going in the other universe, and they keep going, swapping between back and forth into the previous universes to keep you up to date of what's happening in each universe and what's actually going to be happening in the actual real universe. And the Doctor is absolutely so determined as ever to stop the entire project from blowing up in flames. He is absolutely brilliant in this. I think all the characters and the plot developments, the parallel universe concept, is absolutely ingenious. It's so strong, so powerful, and I think Don Houghton, the writer in this fantastic story, is absolutely brilliant. And I think the direction is so strong by Douglas Camfield. I have to say that this story is one of the best, one of my favourites, and it's certainly a brilliant story to enjoy. My rating of this story has to be a 10 out of 10 rating, because I honestly do believe that it's a brilliant story that has so many character developments, so many character differences and similarities between each universe. It's absolutely really fantastic. And the Doctor made out one big quote in episode 4, I believe. If you keep drilling down, you're running into terrible danger, and everybody in the other parallel universe doesn't know if they're running into terrible danger, because the Doctor has already seen it, and also he knows what's going to happen. I think Greg Sutton is also really good. He's trying to prevent anything from happening, but he honestly now gives up in like the parallel universe of where he actually knows that there's nothing to be done. We are left to die here, and it's doomsday. We just sit back and wait for it until the whole entire world blows up, and we all blow up with it. So Greg Sutton is absolutely brilliant in this, and he absolutely helps the Doctor to prevent a catastrophe from happening in the real world. And Liz Shaw, actually, in this story, gets quite worried with the Doctor. In most of the episodes where the Doctor's gone to the parallel universe, the Liz Shaw in the other universe gets quite worried, and she misses the Doctor. And that was one point of where I actually liked that of Liz Shaw in the other universe, of where Liz Shaw actually felt very worried, and she almost had this conspiracy of where the Doctor could come back. Like, he's very unpredictable, and that's one of the key elements of a companion. Like, they wait around for the Doctor to come back because they know he will. And I absolutely love that of Liz Shaw. I think she's brilliant in this scene. I think she's brilliant in this story, and also I think her other side, the section leader Liz Shaw in the other parallel universe, is absolutely brilliant in this. Really fantastic. So much top authority with her personality in this story. I really love Liz Shaw in this story. She's absolutely brilliant in this. And I think the Brigadier in this story, as well as the brigade leader, with this brilliant eye patch on, and also with his invincibility with the entire operation, like he feels so invincible, so supreme, and he feels ultimately like the top dog within the entire, security arrangements and the operation. He really feels like the top dog, and if anybody condemns me of anything, he would absolutely, seriously, is so strict, so sinister. I absolutely love his absolute sinister personality in the story. And I think Sergeant Benton is absolutely aggressive, and I think all the characters in the parallel universe of where they interrogate the Doctor are absolutely so aggressive towards the Doctor. They really believe that the Doctor is some kind of enemy. But what I honestly identify in this story, that Greg Sutton hardly has any differences within each universe. He always seems as the same character all the time, preventing all the dangers from happening. He really feels like that Professor Starman is an absolute nut, believes that the Doctor is absolutely a genius of this entire project, and really works coexisting side by side with the Doctor, becomes a real great friend with the Doctor. And I absolutely love Greg Sutton in this story. I think he's a real underrated character, and he's one of my personal favourite characters in the story. I really have to give a good job to Greg Sutton in this story. But also I like the love relationship between Petra Williams and also Greg in the end. I think they don't see eye to eye in the first few episodes, but then in the end I see now they see eye to eye to each other, and they really become the best of the best of friends, and they work alongside each other so well together, and they really work together as a team. Petra Williams and also Greg Sutton, they probably hook up in the last few months, but we don't see that eventually. But so Keith actually mentions that Greg Sutton has actually gone back with Petra Williams, and I think they're going together, and it all feels like a happy ending in the final few moments of episode 7. But I think in episode 7 we see that the Doctor is almost committing an insulting, pompous idiot oath, self-opinionated idiot towards the Brigadier, and I really think that that's a bit too harsh to call that about the Brigadier, because the Brigadier is quite worried about the Doctor. But although he comes back in episode 7, the Doctor honestly lashes out some insulting comments to the Brigadier, which I felt that I was a bit harsh on the Brigadier, because he hasn't done literally much, and then suddenly the Doctor disappears and dematerializes. But unfortunately, the Doctor comes back and actually dematerializes at the rubbish tip, and the Doctor actually said to the Doctor, Brigadier, could you help me take the console out of the rubbish tip? It's landed in a particular difficult position. And then the Brigadier said, pompous, self-opinionated idiot, I presume you said, Doctor? Yes. Yes, we all had our bad days, Brigadier. But no, come on, chap, crack a smile. And so they really get along really well. And that was the ending scene for Inferno. And just to see their kind of argument and their full relationship between each other. And I think within this story, and I think the final moments of episode 7, we get to see the Brigadier's and the Doctor's relationship fully established. They may not get along quite well together, but in the end, it all ends well. And I have to say, that is the end for my review on Inferno. And so guys, I hope you have enjoyed this review on Inferno. A truly tremendous, brilliant story. A 10 out of 10 rating from me. Please do give a like, but also comment your views on this story. And please do subscribe to my channel if you are new. But also, please do subscribe to the other channel, The Game Addicts, if you're ever interested in what I do or what games do I do. And if you're ever interested, please do hit the subscribe button on The Game Addicts, because I really mean it, and I'm trying to do so many between the two channels. But I have to say that Inferno is a brilliant story, and I absolutely love to bits. The characterization is absolutely brilliant, the plot development, the parallel universe is absolutely strong as ever. Professor Starman, really obedient, irresponsible. I absolutely love his character and his obedience towards everybody else. He feels so self-centered about himself, and he really feels like that he is the complete responsibility of this entire operation. He's the director, he's the person in charge. I actually love his entire personality. And I think with all the personalities within the parallel universe and the other universe, so many differences and so many similarities, but I honestly love all the characters in this, and I think there's so much brilliant direction from Douglas Camfield, brilliant as ever. I absolutely love Inferno. And I have to say that Don Houghton, the writer of this entire story, is such an underrated writer, really so underrated, but for his first story, massive congratulations. I have to say, brilliant work, Don Houghton. You are an absolute brilliant writer. This is his first story in Doctor Who history, and my gosh, what a brilliant writer he is, and what a massive, brilliant, fantastic story this is. Absolutely. I would have to say that this story is absolutely my favourite story from season 7, along with Doctor Who and Silurians, and then we'll have to go to Spearhead from Space, and then to the Ambassadors of Death. But that this story is a brilliant 10 out of 10 for me, and it's absolutely really fantastic. I think that this entire story, I could mumble on so much about this story, that I like the primos, the creativeness, very aggressive, the plot development really strong, and I really like the concept of introducing the parallel universe and how that created this entire story from becoming a really good 4-parter to an epic 7-parter. I absolutely love this entire story. And so guys, thank you for watching for this review on Inferno. I hope you have enjoyed it. And so the next review, we will be doing Terror of the Autons, which will introduce us to a new companion and to a new villain. You will name it, you will know it, the Master, Roger Delgado, for Season 8. And so guys, thank you for watching. Also, I forgot to mention that this story is actually the last appearance of Caroline John, who plays Liz Shaw. And so this is Liz Shaw's final story. And so we don't actually see her going, but we just see her laughing in the background where the Doctor and the Brigadier are actually going and enjoying, you know, the happy moments together. And so that was the last ever glimpse we saw of Liz Shaw in story. And that was actually the last ever scene of where we saw Liz Shaw ever again in Doctor Who. And I have to say that Season 7 is one of my favourite seasons of all time in Doctor Who history. I can't deny this season so much. This season is absolutely the best, one of the best. Really, I have to say, it's just a brilliant, it is a brilliant story. And thank you guys for watching for this entire review. But I won't be doing a review until maybe not next week, because I'm going to a funeral very soon, and so I'm going to be quite occupied with myself for the next couple of days. And so I'll try and get another video uploaded for this channel as soon as I can, but I'll do it in my own time when I have the chance. But the next story will be Terror of the Autons, where a new companion will be introduced, and the Master, played by the legendary Roger Delgado. So guys, thank you for watching for this 10 out of 10 brilliant story.